Welcome to video podcast number 86. Let's see. You all have made me into a liar again. Man, when will I ever learn? How many times have you heard me start off a video saying this video is only going to be 35 minutes long, and then it ends up being an hour to an hour and a half? Or the similar thing I do is I'll say, yeah, I'm only going to do 2 free videos this week, and then I end up doing 3 or 4 free videos that week. Well, matter of fact, if you remember, just 2 days ago, I said I wasn't going to do another free video until Monday. And now, y'all, I'm going to blame it on y'all. Y'all made a liar out of me. Oh, and to my fellow dating advisor, Ron Wills, man, I'm going to get you back, man. Ron Wills, he got me in his last video. He took a lighthearted jab at your boy, man. See Tony Maceo, what you started? To give you the backstory, this brother named Tony Maceo, man, who's frequently heard on Mac City Limits podcast channel. He wrote this response saying, he said, Alan, you have a tendency to rub your balls in men's faces. Now, he actually defended me when he first said it. He said, I don't necessarily think you do it intentionally or maliciously. But he said, even when you're not trying to do it intentionally, it's going to come across. Anytime you're talking about like your past sexual conquests and how popular you've been with women in past years and successful you've been with women in past years, you're not just tooting your horn, but you're rubbing your balls in men's faces who haven't experienced the same thing as you. So this became our running joke that whenever I toot my horn about something, Brother Maceo refers to it as rubbing my balls in men's faces. Matter of fact, what's his name? Big Mike over there at Mac City calls me. He calls me a serial ball rubber. He said, Alan, man, you're a serial ball rubber, man. You're always rubbing your balls in motherfuckers' faces. Hey, you know, me and Ron Wills have always had this kind of mutual respect between us. We've had differences of opinion on a few things before, but even when we've differed with each other about an issue, we've always maintained a high degree of mutual respect. But yeah, man, he called me. He echoed Big Mike from Mac City sentiments, man. He essentially called me a serial ball rubber, man. So, Rob, I'm going to get you back, man. Calling your boy Alan Roger Currie a serial ball rubber, man. Yeah, I am. I'm a semi-serial ball rubber, man. But hey, I'm doing it to help you guys, man. I don't do it, you know, like Maceo initially said, I don't do it maliciously, man. I'm trying to help you guys, man. And it just causes me to reference instances that involve me being somewhat egotistical and narcissistic. Yeah, I found that entertaining on on Rob's podcast. I think it was this morning. No, this one, well, see, here I get ready to go set myself up to be lying again. I was going to say, this one is not going to be too long. Right now I'm at the 4-minute mark. And I could easily say this is not going to last more than a half hour, but it might end up lasting 45 minutes or an hour. I had two were things that were announcements I wanted to say. One is, remember my last video, I wasn't sure if I was going to do a live stream. Oh, wait a minute. Zevia, baby. Love this shit, man. You know, my shit used to be vitamin water. I think, man, slowly but surely, Zevia is taking on a spot as my favorite beverage, particularly my favorite no sugar in it beverage. This stuff is good, man, because I just love, I think I mentioned this already, but I just love the taste of carbonation. That's the main thing this has that Vitamin Water Zero don't have, man. It got that carbonation taste, but it has no sugar in it. It's the shit, man. This is root beer. I want to say this probably right now. Now somebody told me about a flavor in my comment section I haven't tried yet, which is orange. I normally love orange soda. I haven't seen that at my local grocery store, so I'm gonna have to look for it. But I want I'm sorry, all these notifications popped up all of a sudden. Man, this shit's good, man. Yeah, I like that Zevia. Okay, here's the two announcements. One, I am going to do a live stream tomorrow. Patreon exclusive live stream. My last one was 2 Thursdays ago, a week ago Thursday. I didn't do one last Thursday, but I'm going to do one this Thursday. It's going to start at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern. 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern is going to be when my live stream begins. So yeah. My live streams usually last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. My average is probably about 45 minutes. So yeah, and the advantage of the live stream is you not only get to listen to me talk, but you get to ask me questions in real time. Questions in real time. So yeah, I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow. There goes the burp number one. Man, this stuff is good. Excuse me for a second. Zevia. Oh, speaking of questions, I just mentioned that during my live stream, guys get to ask me questions in real time. I had another consultation client was asking me, and I get this question at least once or twice a month. They asked me, what is the difference, Alan, between your email consultations, your Skype and telephone consultations, and your one-on-one face-to-face coaching sessions? Like, what do you offer in one that you don't offer in the other? Is essentially the more detailed question. Here's what each is designed for. I'll start with email consultations. Email consultations, I have 3 packages. And I'm going to have to look up my own prices because I can't remember. That's sad, ain't it? Can't remember my own price. Now, you know I gave you guys a break. Because normally on January 1st, I always raise my prices. Like 4 out of the last 5 years, I raised my price on January 1st of the new year. This year, as of yet, I still might do it. But as of yet, my prices, my 2018 prices are still at the same level that they were in 2017. For email consultation, Skype and telephone consultation, and one-on-one face-to-face coaching. Yeah, as of right now, my prices are still at their 2017 rates. So be thankful. One reason is because I got so busy around New Year's, I was just kind of forgot about it. But yeah, because normally, like I said, 4 out of the last 5 years, I raised all of my rates on January 1st. Okay, if you go to my site, directapproachdating.com, that's my main website, directapproachdating as one word.com, which is always in my with my other relevant links in the description section. And as you always know, you can leave public feedback for my videos in the comment section. Okay, I have 3 email packages, and these are the prices. I got one where you get up to 2 email exchanges with me. That's $19.95. 2 email exchanges for $19.95. Then there's another package I have where you can get up to 5 email exchanges with me for $29.95. And then I have one where you can get up to 10 email exchanges for $49.95. At the most basic level, my email consultations are for when you read one or more of my ebooks or paperbacks, or you listen to one or more of my audiobooks, and something has left you confused. Something about something I said in one of my chapters kind of left a big question mark on your head. That's when you would pay for an email consultation. So you might write me an email saying, "Hey, Alan, I was listening to Ooh Say It Again, but there were some things in chapter 4 that kind of left me feeling a little bit confused, and I wanted to ask you 1 or 2 questions related to chapter 4 and Ooh Say It Again." That's when you would purchase an email consultation, for me to clarify something I said in one of my ebooks, one of my paperbacks, or one of my audiobooks in more detail. At a more higher level is you might have a situation like you either getting ready to go on a date with a woman, or you just went on a date with a woman, or you just had a lengthy conversation with a woman, and something she said just left you confused or frustrated. And you want some, feedback from me about your conversation with this woman or about your date with this woman. That's where email consultation comes into play. So yeah, those would be the 2 main things for email consultations. Next up would be my Skype. Oh, one thing, and I mentioned this criticism before, but I gotta throw out this criticism when it comes to email consultations. Do not purchase an email consultation from me, say like a 2 exchange email consultation. And hold on 1 second. I have to close out all these notifications. Some of you guys will send me by like a 2 exchange email consultation, and then you'll send me like 5 paragraphs worth of both backstory information as well as like multiple questions. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now, I haven't had anybody do it in the last few weeks, so it's been a while, and that's a good thing. But I know last year, in 2017, man, I was getting that from a lot of you guys, man. You guys would purchase a 2 email consultation from me, and then you write me like a mini dissertation full of a combination of backstory and questions you have for me. That's not how my email consultations work. The most questions you should be asking me in any single email is like maybe 2 questions. 2 questions. Those both should be related to each other. They shouldn't be 2 separate standalone questions. They should be related to each other. But yeah, man, don't send me email. Don't buy email conversation from me and then send me like 15 questions in one email. That's why I have the 5 email exchange package and the 10 email exchange package for, is if you got multiple questions. But if you're just buying like the 2 exchange package, then you should only be asking me an average of 1 or 2 questions per email. So I wanted to point that out because, again, I've gotten that quite a bit. I haven't gotten it so far in 2018, but in 2017, I got that quite a bit. So then the next level up is Skype and telephone consultations. Skype and telephone consultations. I have 3 packages for that too. Just like with email, I had 2 email exchanges, 5 email exchanges, and 10 email exchanges. For my Skype and telephone consultations, I have 20 minutes, 40-minute session, and a hour-long session. My 20-minute session is $50. My 40-minute session is $75. And my per hour session is $99. And again, feel lucky because I was going to raise those rates for sure on January 1st, but I haven't as of yet. But yeah, right now, my 20-minute session is $50, 40-minute session is $75, and an hour is $99. And with the Skype and telephone consultations, I cover a lot of the same things I would in an email consultation. Plus, I do a lot of what I call social programming extraction. Social programming extraction. What does that mean? If you remember this story I told a couple times, when I did my first co-ed speaking engagement in Chicago, and that was in January of 2006, the woman who invited me to do the speaking engagement, she had an interesting assessment of my book. She said, Alan, your book is both very simplistic, but yet very profound and complex at the same time. And I told her, her name is Kimberly Jean Brown. And I told her, I said, well, I think I've heard that from 1 or 2 other people, but go ahead and elaborate so that I know what you mean by that. And she said, the simplistic part of your book is simply what you're telling men to do. Your advice for how men should verbally communicate with women, which is to verbally communicate with them in a very upfront, specific, and straightforwardly honest manner as it relates to their romantic desires, interests, and intentions, or their strictly sexual desires, interests, and intentions. She said that part is not rocket science. So the part that centers around what you're telling men to do, what you're recommending that they do, particularly as it relates to verbal communication, she said that's simplistic. She said the profound and complex part of your book is when you stop and ask yourself, why aren't all men already this way? Like, what's preventing men from being this way in the first place? She said that's the complex part of your book. And I agree with her. And going back to my coaching and consultations, I also said this once in a video last year. I remember in either April or May of last year. I compared myself loosely to the game show Jeopardy. If you've ever watched Jeopardy, you'll know that in most game shows that center around like questions and answers, usually the game show host asks you a question and you have to guess or figure out what the answer is. They ask you the question and then you got to usually figure out what the answer is. Jeopardy turns it around. Jeopardy gives you the answer and you have to figure out as the contestant what the question is. They give you the answer and you have, as the contestant, have to figure out what the question is. That's kind of loosely relates to my coaching style. I pretty much, for the most part, depending on what your situation is, I give you the answer for free. I don't charge men money for the answer. My answer to just about every problem is be more one. Be more one. Verbally communicate with women in a more one manner. I don't charge you money for that. I don't charge you money to tell you to be more one. I tell you that for free. The reason why I charge money, other than the simple fact that time is money, and so if you're taking up my time, I'm going to charge you money for it. That's number one. Time, always remember that business rule number one, time is money. But the main reason I charge people for consultations and coaching sessions is because I got to, figuratively speaking, I got to go in your head and identify what the problem is. Just like an auto mechanic, when you take your car in, what do? They open up your hood and they examine different things under the hood to specifically identify why your car is not working properly. Assuming you don't know specifically why your car is not working. Now, sometimes you might take your car into an auto mechanic because you know exactly what your problem is. You just don't know how to fix it. Then there's other times you might not know. You might not know if it's something to do with your engine or your alternator or your battery, whatever. Transmission. That's what I do essentially. When I do consultations with guys, particularly multiple consultations, and when I do one-on-one coaching sessions, you can say, figuratively speaking, I open up the hood of your mind. And I try to identify what's holding you back. What's holding you back? What negative thoughts are holding you back? What invalid beliefs are holding you back? What ineffective attitudes are holding you back? What destructive self-destructive and counterproductive egotistical insecurities are holding you back, and what unwarranted fears are holding you back. The collective sum of all of those things, which would be, again, your negative thoughts, invalid beliefs, ineffective attitudes, counterproductive and self-destructive egotistical insecurities, and unwarranted fears, the combination of that I refer to as your social programming. Your social programming. That's your social programming. See, all human beings, man, operate primarily on two forms of behavior. We operate on behavior that's influenced by our just natural DNA and our biological inclinations. Our natural DNA and our biological needs and desires. And then another major influence of our behavior is our social programming. Another term I use for it is cultural conditioning or social brainwashing. Those are the two main things that basically dictate your behavior. Is your DNA and your biological impulses, inclinations, and needs and desires, and then your social programming. And so, yeah, when I consult with clients, that's one of the first things, if not the first thing I do. Is because, see, that's where it differs from client to client. So not all clients are exactly the same. Different clients I work with have different thoughts that influence their behavior, different beliefs, different attitudes, different egotistical insecurities, different fears. And see, I have to identify that. And that's you can say that's a lot of what you paying me money for. Again, depending on the situation, I generally give the solution for free, which is be mode 1. What you're paying for is to help me go inside your head and specifically identify what's preventing you from being mode 1. Like, you know, there's a lot of athletes that do that with certain life coaches. Like Tony Robbins has worked with a lot of athletes. Like, there's some athletes, you hear people say this about, man, this basketball player, this football player, he's so phenomenal now. Like, just 2 to 3 years ago, everybody was criticizing him for not playing up to his full potential. But now he seems to be playing up to his full potential. And when they usually interview the athlete, he'll usually say something like, yeah, what happened was I identified that I had a lot of, negative thoughts and the wrong beliefs that was holding me back from playing the way I needed to be playing. It happens with a lot of entertainers, like actors and actresses. A lot of times there'll be an average actor, actress, then all of a sudden it seems like they get nominated for an Oscar left and right, or nominated for an Emmy left and right. And a lot of times in the interviews they'll say it's because they identified that something mentally was holding them back. That's usually what holds you back from reaching your full potential. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help you reach your full potential as it relates to interacting with women, attracting women, and being able to seduce women. And so, if you're not being more one with women, it's typically because something's holding you back. It's that simple. Something's holding you back. If nothing was holding you back, you would naturally be more one. You wouldn't even need my help to be more one. You would just be more one, like just naturally, without hesitation. I've never really met a man who didn't want to be more one. And that's the honest truth. I very rarely, if ever, have met a man that didn't want to be more one. Most men are either already more one, or if they want to be more one but they're not, it's because they're scared of something. Some type of fear or egotistical insecurity or some invalid belief or attitude is holding them back. Something about their social programming is holding them back. So anyway, yeah, I got some, as far as consultations, I got some guys who might use me only once or twice, and then I help them just tweak things. Like, it's funny, I was listening to Ron Wells, and he was saying how he doesn't usually refer to himself as a dating coach, but more so just a relationship expert and just a brother with strong opinions. But he was mentioning that most of his clients that he works with are guys who already have an above average level of game, and they're just looking to tweak some things. Looking to tweak some things. And I work with a percentage of those type of clients too, but I'm just the opposite of Ron though in terms of percentage wise. He said that's most of his clients. For me, it's just the opposite. That's my smallest percentage of clients, is guys that just need a little tweaking. Just a little tweaking. Most of the guys I work with as clients are guys that have recognized that they just have less than average game. Some of them are just totally clueless with women. I mean, like just literally, they started from what I call base zero. They started from base zero. They're totally clueless with women. They don't know anything about dealing with socializing with women. So yeah, I got some guys, again, the tweakers are guys who usually use me once or twice and then I'm done with them. Then I got what I would call my semi-regular clients. Then I have regular clients. Like there's some guys, I do at least 1 or 2 consultations with them per month, every month. Per month, every month. And there's other guys I might work with them once every 2 to 3 months. Then I have my more occasional clients, or very short-term clients. So that's my Skype and telephone consultations. One final note on that, I only do telephone if you're in the United States. If you're in the United States, I do either or. I do either Skype or telephone. If you're outside the United States, even including Canada or Mexico, I just do strictly Skype. I just do strictly Skype if you're out the country. I don't do telephone. And then one-on-one coaching. Just like I got 3 packages for email consultation. Again, which is 2 emails, 5 emails, and 10 emails. And then Skype and telephone consultation, I have 20-minute sessions, 40-minute sessions, and 1-hour sessions. For face-to-face coaching, I actually have 4 packages. 4 packages. I have a 4-hour session that is handled in 1 day, and that is $1,000. And see, I was going to raise those prices on January 1st, but I haven't as of yet. But yeah, my cheapest price for one-on-one face-to-face coaching is 4 hours for 1,000, 8 hours for 1,650, 1,650. 8-hour session, that can be either in one day or it could be 4 hours each over 2 days. It could be 8 hours in one day or 4 hours each over 2 days. Then I have a 14-hour session that goes across 3 days. I do 4 hours the first day, 7 hours the second day, and 3 hours the third day. And that's $2,750, $2,750. And then my most expensive is a 1 week, where I work with you for 6 days. 6 days at a rate of $8,000. So what's the difference between the 4 hour, the 8 hour, and the 14 hour, and the 1 week? 4 hour is almost like a face-to-face version of doing, 4 or 5 Skype consultations. Yeah, it's just almost, it's very similar to what I would cover in a Skype consultation, only it's face-to-face. And also, I work with you, I examine you physically so I can identify what may be wrong in terms of just your disposition, your demeanor. Because that's a lot of successful women. That's overlooked. Is just your overall, like how you stand, how you use your eyes, how you use your voice. How confident or non-confident your demeanor looks. I examine that type of stuff in a one-on-one face-to-face consultation. 8 hour. I do everything I would do in a 4 hour, plus you do some degree of role play with a female assistant of mine. You do some degree of role play, verbal role play. I put you in different scenarios where I watch you role play, and then I analyze the strengths and weaknesses of that role play conversation. 14-hour session, a 3-day 14-hour session. I cover everything that I would do in an 8-hour session, plus I go out in the field with you, and I watch you actually approach women. Yeah, so when I do the 3-day 14-hour session, I actually go out in the field with you. That's a PUA term, but I borrowed it. I don't like to use too many PUA terms. That's a PUA term, in the field. But yeah, that's what I do. I go out in the field with you. So I'll watch you. We might go out somewhere outside or somewhere indoors. Like I remember one time in Chicago, me and a client, we went into some shopping stores along North Michigan Avenue. And I watched him approach women. I kind of stood like maybe 3, 4, 5 feet away so that I could hear the conversation. And then I would analyze what were his strengths during that conversation, what was his weaknesses. So that's what I do in a 14-hour session. And the 1 week session, which I rarely get purchased. But as soon as someone was just interested in that, that would be for a guy, number one, that's usually an international guy, a guy that's out of the country, and he really needs me to spend a few days just really studying him, listening to him, and getting to know him before I get into the process of helping him. That would be what the 1 week session is for. So, that's the gist of my email consultation versus Skype and telephone consultation versus one-on-one face-to-face coaching. To mention again, I do have some one-on-one face-to-face coaching assignments coming up in about 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm gonna be working with clients in both San Francisco, and I'm going to be working with clients in Los Angeles. So this, as I mentioned, this is one of the first times I've ever done what I would call a double city trip like this. I think there's only been one other time I've done a double city trip. Yeah, I'm going to one city, and then right after I leave that city, I'm going to the second city. I'm going to be in San Francisco on March 1st and March 2nd, and I'm going to be in Los Angeles on March 3rd, March 4th, and March 5th. 1st and 2nd, San Francisco and Los Angeles on March 3rd, March 4th, and March 5th. Yeah. So write me at coaching@mo1.net, coaching@mo1.net if you want if you have any more questions related to either my email consultations, my Skype and telephone consultations, and my one-on-one face-to-face coaching session. Now, I'm gonna spend hopefully no more than the next 20 minutes just kind of reiterating and reflecting on some of my past recent videos. In general, I've mentioned before, I've gotten a lot of feedback on my last 4 to 5 videos. Starting with, what is it? Video podcast, number 80, I think, was my first one. Yeah. Starting with video podcast number 80. Let me see, which was the kind of beginning of my most recent string of, hold on. I'm hyped for Black Panther, man. That should be a good movie. I can't wait to see it. I'm seeing that tomorrow. Okay. Here's the video that started my recent string of videos, which was video podcast number 80. It was entitled, Treating Women Like They're Either Good Girls or Sluts. I'll probably put the link for my past videos in the comment section. Treating women like they're either good girls or sluts. That dealt with the negative effects of the Madonna horror complex. Then the sequel to that was video podcast number 81, I'm sorry, 81, which was Alan responds to critics of video podcast number 80. Because I had a lot of guys who criticized that video. Then video podcast 82 was a woman saying I love you doesn't mean she plans to be monogamous with you. That was video podcast number 82, which got a lot of feedback. Then the next video after that was, you're frustrated because you fail to understand women's true nature. So that was, 83? Yeah, that was 83. Yeah, that was video podcast 83. Video podcast 84 was Women Who Refuse to Accept and Understand Women's True Nature, Part 2. That was video podcast number 84. And then finally, my last video podcast number 85 was me with some movie recommendations. You know, some guy wrote in my comment section, I think recently or a few days ago, he gave me a compliment. He said, Alan, I get this compliment a lot. He said, Alan, you have a talent. These are not exact words, I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said, Alan, you have a talent for taking things that could be very lengthy, detailed, and complicated and being able to simplify it so that it's more easily understandable. And again, honestly, that's the compliment I get quite often. And anyway, this particular person also went on to say that, in reference to me mentioning like the history to do with that period between 1960 and 1974, this person said that, Alan, if something to the effect of, if history classes, high school and college history classes, were to implement discussions that have to do with dating and relationships and sex, then most history classes would be a lot more interesting and a lot more enjoyable to take. Because let's be real, man, when you're in high school or college and you see that you got a history class, a lot of times you have attitude like history. I don't feel like listening to this shit. You don't really care because Particularly when you're real young, because you don't see how it is directly correlated to your own individual life. You look at it as something that, hey, that happened in the past and it ain't got nothing to do with my life right now. But if you guys genuinely want to gain more understanding about women, and even on a broader scale, dating relationships, man, you need to become a history buff. One dating coach I'm going to give a lot of props to when it comes to being a history. Dude, if there's one dating coach, man, when it comes to like world history, specifically as it relates to dating relationship, David X. David X, who, as you know, was a 7-time guest on my Blog Talk radio show. Man, David X, man, it's funny, man, if you look at David X, he looks like just a regular dude, you know? He looks like the type of dude you would find in a bar every Friday, drinking some brews, some beers, and just talking shit. Man, David X knows his shit, though. When it comes to, like, he knows the history, particularly as it relates to European countries. European countries. Man, David X knows his shit, man. Like, he knows what women a certain king was fucking back in the day, what women certain dictators were fucking back in the day, and how dating relationships tied into political differences and just worldwide beefs and that type of thing. And yeah, man, I just love listening to him. When we were in London and Amsterdam together, man, I just played I can talk my ass off, but if I say so myself, I'm a very good listener if somebody is dropping knowledge on me. And David X, man, I did a lot of listening while I was with him, man, because I'm telling you, man, that dude, he knows his shit, man. He knows his shit. Again, particularly as it relates to Europe, European countries and their kind of like love life, sex life histories. What's making me talk about this type of stuff again, stuff related to video podcast number 80 through 84, 85. I noticed that some of you guys, not too many, only a small percentage, but some of you guys have made comments to the effect of, Alan, feminism, what do I want to say? Guys, number one, they kind of, if not directly, indirectly trying to challenge my assertion that women's true nature is to be more promiscuous and or polyamorous as opposed to strictly monogamous. And a lot of guys wrote, again, I'm saying a lot, I shouldn't say that, it wasn't a lot, it was maybe like 2 or 3 guys, wrote comments suggesting that feminism fucked women up, essentially, is what they said. You know, Alan, you have to agree that feminism fucked women up. Alan, even you would have to agree that feminism has created all these slutty women we see today. That's not true, man. And when you make comments like that, it lets me know that either you're not truly listening to what I'm saying, you just like looked at the title or something, or if you listen to everything I said in my videos, then you don't understand what I'm saying. You don't understand what I'm saying. One of the two. Either you didn't really listen, or you listen and you don't understand. If you believe that feminism, specifically the second wave of feminism that happened in the 1960s, is what caused women to become more promiscuous or polyamorous, then you're not understanding what I'm saying at all. At all. You're not understanding what I'm saying. You're not understanding what I'm saying. What I'm telling you in simple terms, monogamy is a problem in its fucking self. That's what I'm telling you. See, again, a lot of you guys are looking at monogamy as being normal, particularly for women if not both men and women, you're looking at monogamy as being normal, and people who exhibit promiscuous and or polyamorous behavior as being abnormal or something that didn't happen until the sexual revolution of the 1960s. And what I'm telling you, again, for a lot of you this is repetitive, but what I'm telling you is that the world started off being promiscuous and polyamorous. That's how the world fucking started out. So for you guys who say feminism has turned women into sluts, that's not true, man. Women started off being promiscuous and polyamorous. That's how they started out being. Monogamy came along way, like centuries later, man. Monogamy is a social construct. Do you all know what that means? That's what it is. A lot of people don't like to present it that way, but that's essentially what it is. Long-term monogamy is a social construct. What is a social construct? Remember earlier in this very video, I was saying you mainly have two influences of your behavior, which is your behavior that's influenced by your natural DNA, your biological DNA, and just your biological needs, desires, inclinations, and instincts. Then the other, that's what I call a person's raw desires. Raw desires is those things you pursue because the biology, your body, your DNA is like, the simple example would be hunger for food. Nobody brainwashes you to be hungry for food. That's a natural biological desire. Or a beverage such as this. So you're thirsty. When you get thirsty, you want to drink something. Nobody teaches you how to be thirsty. You're born thirsty. And you're born hungry. So that's one major influence on you, is just your biological DNA and instincts and inclinations. Then there's your social programming side. Social programming. That's where society basically teaches you the right way to behave. They basically tell you what's appropriate behavior and what's inappropriate behavior. That they believe will be more conducive to a civilized society functioning properly. See, in order for any society to be civilized, man, people have to adhere to their social programming. I mean, that's just a given. That's the only way you can have a civilized society. Is if people are brainwashed to adhere to their social programming and respect authority and respect laws and the rules of the land. That's the only way you can have a civilized society. Otherwise, you would have a barbaric society. Which is how most societies were back in the day. Hundreds and thousands of centuries ago, man, you know, the world was barbaric, man. It was, you know, I did a whole episode. I talked about this on Blog Talk Radio one time, man. I mean, there was a time, man, when, figuratively speaking, imagine if you were at home with your wife and 2 kids, and some motherfuckers just burst in your house from another country and looked around your house and was like, you know what? I like this house. I want it. I'm going to take it. And your wife, she's beautiful and sexy. I'm going to fuck her. I'm going to fuck her right in front of you right now. And then after I fuck your wife and I come in her mouth, I'm going to take your house and kick you out of here. Or you can remain in this house and become my bitch. What's your choice? Now I'm being lighthearted, but essentially that's there was a period that's how the world worked, man. You were either conquering or being conquered. Believe that shit. You were either doing some conquering or you were being conquered. Fuck acting civilized. And since somebody gave me the compliment of simplifying things, I don't want to get too lengthy and too academic and, just basically go into a full-fledged like history class kind of. I actually don't want to talk more than roughly 10 more minutes, to be truthful. I'll simplify it this way, man. Here's two things that cause men to have differences with each other. Let's push aside the differences men and women have and just focus on the differences men have with other men. There's two things that will make men have differences with other men. At least two things. I ain't going to say only two things, but at least two things. At least two things. How to protect, manage, and distribute resources. How to protect, manage, and distribute resources. Why do you think you have Republicans and Democrats in the United States? Among other things, they got a difference of opinion on how to manage and distribute financial resources. Democrats believe in sharing all resources equally, generally speaking. That's what a liberal believes in. They believe that, for example, that if a guy is really, really wealthy, that he should share at least half his wealth with people who are poor. Republicans, on the other hand, they're fiscal conservatives. They don't believe in all that sharing shit, man. They don't believe in that shit. They believe that if you as a man, say, earned $10 million, that you should use that $10 million however the fuck you want to use it and not be made to feel obligated to help out poor people. Now, I'm not saying that Republicans are totally unempathetic to poor people or anything like that, but I'm saying they're fiscal conservatives. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to get too lengthy about shit. I want to keep it on dating relationships, but that's one of the biggest things that will cause men, one group of men, to have differences with another group of men, is how to protect, manage, and distribute resources. Resources that are needed to survive and function properly and flourish. Second most thing that will cause one group of men to have major differences with another group of men is how much freedom you give women. How much freedom you give women to behave the way they want to fucking behave. You see that here on YouTube. You see that here on YouTube. There's a lot of podcast hosts that have differences with other podcast hosts because they have a difference on how a woman should behave towards a man. Like, there's some men, that don't believe women should have any freedoms, particularly as it relates to their sexuality. There's some men who don't believe, and multiply that times 100, you have those type of, think of the differences between podcast hosts or people who watch podcasts. Now multiply that times 100, and now you understand why you have certain cultures that hate other cultures, certain countries that hate other countries. Certain cultures and countries believe that women shouldn't have any freedoms, like literally like pretty much none. That women should only do what men tell them to do and say what men tell them to say. Then you have a country like our beloved country, America, that believes women should do what the fuck they want to do, when they want to do it. Now, if you come from the school of thought of women shouldn't be given any freedoms, and you heard women in your very restrictive, oppressive country saying, I'm going to move to America where I can be the woman who I truly meant to be, what would be your feelings about America? Be honest. What would be your... Like, there's people within the United States that hate the fact that there's a lot of people who believe that one of the major reasons why you had the fall of the Roman Empire was because women were given too many freedoms. One more thing before I wrap up. Do with history, under the category of history. One era you need to become more familiar with, for those guys who believe that women didn't start being promiscuous polyamorous until the 1960s and 1970s, you need to familiarize yourself with the Victorian era. I mentioned it in my book, The Beta Male Revolution, and I mentioned it before on Blog Talk Radio and in articles. See, here's the deal. Again, women started off being promiscuous and polyamorous. That's how they were for years, for centuries. Women were just promiscuous and polyamorous and later polygamous. They started off being promiscuous and polyamorous and then later polygamous. See, now the stuff I want to talk about is going to be too lengthy. I don't really want to go more than an hour. But here's my really, really simplified way of putting it. And it's all in my, get my book, The Beta Male Revolution. See, here's the deal, man. Women, see, there were a lot of women back in the day, man, who used to let men have women on the side, such as courtesans and concubines. They let men have women on the side. But you could say their main rules were this, though. They were basically like to their husbands, I'm going to let you fuck other women. Even though I'm your wife, I'm going to let you fuck other women. But you can't get them pregnant. You can't share our financial resources with them. And when I get older, you can't dump me and then marry these young bitches. And the men were basically like, okay. But you know men, what did they eventually end up doing? They got some of those women pregnant. They start sharing money with those women. And a lot of men start dumping their women. Once their wives got into their late 40s and 50s and 60s, they dumped those women for younger women. So I wrote an Examiner article about this. I'll see if I can find an archive copy. And it's also in the Beta Male Revolution. But see, a lot of people always want to talk about men versus women's issues. But there's a lot of issues, as I already mentioned, that involve just men versus other men. Then there's other issues that involve women versus other women. Women were resentful. Women who were married were resentful of women who were able to get the same amount of attention from men as them and get some of the same financial resources as them, but they had, like, you know, they were exhibiting promiscuous behavior. Enter the Victorian era. The women, and I'm simplifying a lot of shit. But the Victorian era, basically, what happened during the Victorian era is that women basically in Europe came out with this attitude that if you're a woman who has a promiscuous past, you don't deserve to be married. You don't deserve to be married. I mean, they didn't make it illegal for a woman who had a promiscuous past to get married, but there was this big social push that essentially said to women who had a promiscuous past that you don't deserve to be married. Only women who saved themselves for their husband deserve to be married. And that's what the primary era that ushered in the notion of the good girl, the strictly monogamy-oriented good girl. Because one of the things, like the wedding dress, was ushered in during that period. And you notice most wedding dresses are white. A white wedding dress is supposed to, on paper, represent a virgin. Like, most women in the Victorian era felt like if you're not a virgin, you can't wear a white wedding dress. So, all that to say this, man, the second wave of feminism was not women changing from their default nature to some type of abnormal nature, but it was more so about women wanting to return to their original nature. In simple terms, that's what the second wave of feminism was, and combined with the sexual revolution, was about. It wasn't about women wanting to change from being monogamous to more promiscuous and polyamorous. It was more so a situation where women wanted to return to being the promiscuous and polyamorous women they had always been before. Monogamy was the experiment, and to put it in kind of manner of speaking. Long-term monogamy was more, again, it was a social construct. And if you read those island examples, I'm not going to go into detail with them. If you read those island examples in my book, The Beta Male Revolution, you'll understand why society promotes monogamy. I'll leave you with this simple analogy. I'm not going to go into detail about it, but just marinate on it. Think about if you had 20 men on an island with 20 women. 20 men on an island with 20 women. And let's say there was 4 men, 4 of those 20 men on that island who could fuck any of those 20 women that they wanted to. They could fuck any of those 20 women that they wanted to. Now let's say 12 of those 20 men were able to attract at least one of those women, but more than likely, even the one woman that they were able to attract was still going to get a pussy to one of those 4 dudes. And then there was 4 other dudes that couldn't get any pussy. They couldn't get just not even one woman. And let's say initially monogamy was bad. What kind of attitudes do you think those 4 guys who can't get no pussy and even the 12 guys who getting some pussy but they know their female sex partners are fucking one of those 4 players, womanizers, what do you think the attitude is going to be towards those 4 guys over a period of time? Don't you think at some point some of them guys going to be like, we need to kill them 4 motherfuckers who getting all the pussy? Marinate on that. All right, fellas. Peace.
Yes, sir.
Say it again.
Yes, sir.
Who's the king?
Alan, you're the king.
Say it again.
Alan, you're the king. You're dominating me.
Say it again.
Alan, you're dominating me right now. Mode 1.
Mode 1.
Daddy, can I go, please? You're the king.
Say it again.
Oh, king. Oh, you're the fucking king. Yes. 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 Oh. Oh. Oh.
You're the king, Alan.
AKA the king of verbal seduction. You know, it's the tone of your voice, how seductive your intonations are, the vibrations that you could just reach out over the phone lines and stroke a woman's breast just by the sound of your voice, how you could make her pussy so wet just by the sound of your voice. That's actually very hot.
So you said my show was what?
I said your show is powerful.
Oh, say it again.
Your show is powerful.
I bet the king would fuck me really good.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie.
Oh, yeah. Who's the king?
Alan Roger Currie. The king.
The king.
The king.